Minasama, ladies and gentlemen, hello everyone. We're going to start this second press conference with Ireland head coach Joe Schmidt and his captain Rory Best. Please remember to raise your hand and wait for the microphone before answering the question or asking a question. First question from the floor, please. Gentlemen here.
Joe, congratulations on making the quarter-final. What did you like about that performance? And if you could just give us an idea if there's any injuries or anything like that after the game.
Yeah, I really like the start again. I think we started really well in all 4 games. We just haven't continued it, and I felt this time we continued it pretty well. It was disappointing probably to concede the try that we did. Samoa muscled up really well for it, but I actually thought that we were tactically relatively solid once we lost Bundee, because it would have been very hard to play with a huge amount of width. I still felt the try that we got down the short side to make it 4 tries was really effectively done after getting the maul going. Johnny shooting down the short side. Jordan Larmour creating the try for Johnny prior to that. And, in the second half, it probably wasn't great to watch, but it was comforting to know that we were in the right part of the pitch. And we went to a couple of strong points for us with the maul and the scrum and carried close with a man down. That's inevitably probably the strong suit that you're going to play to.
Joe, whoever you play next week will have had an easier run in physically. By the same token, you wouldn't have wanted to have missed out on that performance. The value of it is greater than a weekend off, surely.
Yeah, it's one of those conundrums, really. You want to get some rhythm, and you want to probably on the back of us not having played for 9 days, it's probably important to play. Whereas I do think some of the other teams had shorter turnarounds, and therefore they're probably delighted. But I think it's enough work that we got through that will stand to us, hopefully. But at the same time, it was a lot of work. The forwards particularly really muscled up well and had to work really hard, and that's a little bit attritional. But it's something they like and they enjoy doing anyway. And well, they do at the time. Probably tomorrow morning they feel the effects of it. So for us, it will be really important to recover well, and it probably just squeezes up our preparation. Whereas either of the opponents that we'll have, they'll watch tomorrow evening's game, see the result, know who they're playing, but in the meantime they'll be ready to hit the ground running. Whereas we might need another day or so to recover.
Joe, what did you think of the red card decision? And if there is to be a hearing and a follow-up, do you think there are enough grounds there for Bundee Aki not to be suspended beyond this point?
Yeah, I spoke to Steve Jackson. He's obviously suffered from a couple of red cards or a couple of sightings from his players, and it's a really tough situation. I think Bundee is upright. You can see both his hands behind the shoulder blades of the player who's just starting to come up, and it's all split-second stuff. So, we live in hope, and we'll see what the judiciary decide. But once it's a red card, you sense a loss of control over what happens next. No matter what you try to present, we know there's a very hard line, and I certainly feel for Bundee. He's pretty devastated that his tournament, any further participation in the tournament is now at risk.
Joe, Steve Jackson said he would. They would make whatever representations necessary to help on that front, because they hope that Bundee doesn't receive any further censure than the red card. You must be pleased that he would, I suppose, say that openly and have that opinion?
Yeah, look, I think Steve is he was a good player himself. He's been coaching Super Rugby. He's been coaching for some time, and I think Steve knows the game well. And we'd both be pretty disappointed if Bundee does get ruled out of the rest of the tournament on the back of that tackle. And I do genuinely say tackle, because that's what it was. Both hands are forward of his shoulders. But there is a very hard line being taken, and we'll just have to accept whatever decision is made by the judiciary.
Yeah, question for Rory. When you got that red card from the side, and in hindsight, it looked like you stepped it up a level in intensity, you scored a try right on half-time. Is that the way you saw it out on the pitch?
Yeah, look, I think it's important to keep your composure when you go down to 14 men. Just tactically, you change a little bit. I know we got into a huddle and the back row talked about maybe chasing a few less rucks in terms of going for turnovers. Obviously, your scrum half comes in and out of the line, and it helps a lot when we have a very smart scrum half. And we knew that ultimately we felt we're in a good rhythm before the red card, and it was important that we kept that. And you have to increase your intensity. We've been in a position before against South Africa many years ago where we got a red card and we went on to win the game, and you can take confidence from that.
Joe, this time 4 years ago, you had a massive body count after the last pool game. Do you think you're in a better position now going into a World Cup quarter-final?
Well, we've certainly got more bodies available, and that's a positive for starters. I think there's a bit more uncertainty this time. Last time, once we'd played France, we knew we were playing Argentina. There was some certainty in what we could do to prepare for that. It's a bit awkward, because we've got to wait until that final game in the pool and find out then exactly who we may be playing. So we've got a better body count. I would say that we've got 31 fit players at this stage, as far as I know. And if we lose one of those through any consequence of the judiciary, then I do feel at least Robbie was back today and did very well, and we've got Chris and we've got Gary, so we've got some cover there. If we do lose Bundee, last time, losing your captain, losing probably a talismanic loose forward like Sean O'Brien, losing your director of operations in Johnny Sexton, and Peter O'Mahony, a key man in the line out, plus Jared Payne. It was a kind of concertina effect for us. This time, hopefully, we'll be through unscathed and we can give it our best shot.
Rory, obviously you know it's going to be either South Africa or New Zealand. You don't know who at this point. It's going to be difficult regardless. With that in mind, topping the group gives you an extra day to prepare and recover. How crucial could that be?
Yeah, look, I think that unfortunately with the performance against Japan, whatever, a couple of weeks ago, we kind of lost control of that. But we also knew that 10 points in the next two games would guarantee us a quarter-final. So we've done that, and we'll just have to wait to see what happens tomorrow. Like Joe said there, it is a bit of a wait and see. And look, an extra day is always nicer, but it's when you start to go into 6 and 5 day turnarounds that things become complicated. 7-day turnaround is something we're used to in Six Nations, by and large. So look, we're used to turning around in that sort of period, and it gives us a full run in. That's what we had this week for Samoa. That sort of normal run into a game, and I think whatever it'll be, they're two world-class teams, and we know we're going to have to be better again than we were tonight, and we're going to have to produce some of our best rugby.
Sorry, gentlemen in the back.
Joe, you mentioned there that a very hard line is being taken with regards to the rules that saw Bundee Aki get red carded today. By the letter of the law, it was probably a correct red card, but in terms of the hard line being taken overall, is that the correct thing in your view?
Look, I think that's a really broad question, and it's probably something that that we'll look at this individual case just as the judiciary will. That we won't be making any broad sweeping statements about the line that's being taken. I know amongst coaches that there's a fair bit of anxiety about it, just because I think sometimes unless you're out there and you realise just how little time you have between a loose ball suddenly being picked up and then somebody changing height, whether they're dropping or whether they're coming up. Those precious split seconds don't allow a lot of time to modify what you've committed to. So, in the end, whatever decision is made will be made, and it doesn't really count for a lot. What I think of it, other than feeling for Bundee, if the decision is that he misses out next week.
Joe, if it does come to pass that Ireland face the back-to-back world champions in 7 days' time, how would you feel about that? And do you think the team will take more confidence into that game on the back of tonight's performance?
Yeah, I feel that you've got to be at your very, very best to have a chance. And the All Blacks are a sort of team that you could play at your best and still not quite get the result, because they weren't number one in the world for 10 years. They're not back-to-back World Cup winners for no reason. They're that because of the personnel they have, because of the culture they have, and the performances they manage to put together on a very regular basis. So for us, it would be, to a degree, a mountain to climb. But I think after tonight, the lads they got their boots on, and they've got a few crampons. They've taken a little bit of an ascent. Obviously, the whole thing gets steeper next week. But if it is the All Blacks, then we'll look to scale those heights.
Last two questions, here on the right, and then in the middle.
Rory, in terms of preparation, what lessons have you learned from your quarterfinals in 2015 and 2011? Is there anything that you're going to do differently this week?
Hopefully, we'll win, which will be different from the last two World Cups, which would be nice. Look, I think that you got to try to prepare. We know that it's knockouts, and we said a couple of weeks ago after the Japan game that it's important that we learned our lessons. Over the last two World Cups I've been involved in, we've looked back at quarterfinals and went, we weren't just quite where we thought we were, and we rolled through two pool stages where we didn't lose a game, and we were full of confidence, and maybe looking back now, maybe a little bit of overconfidence. It's hard to know, but I think it's really important that we look at that Japan week coming off the back of a good performance against Scotland and go, right, well, what stone did we not leave unturned? And that is, it's got to be all about rugby this week, and we'll enjoy a little bit of downtime when it's there to try to take it away from it, but ultimately it is about going to a quarter-final and winning it, because it's now knockout rugby and you don't get a second chance at it.
Joe, could I just ask about Jordan Larmour's performance, and has he put his hand up in terms of selection next week?
Yeah, I think he keeps putting his hand up, and that's one thing that we really like about him. He puts his hand up no matter where he ends up. I do think, when you think back to that Japan game, Jordan was playing 13, Luke McGrath was on the wing. Jordan ended up back at 13. He actually ended up at 12 tonight, and Keith Earls at 13. I think his flexibility, his enthusiasm, is irrepressible. I don't know how many tackles he slipped tonight, but he got the ball under real pressure a few times, and almost created opportunities from having the ball under pressure. When he got the ball with a little bit of time and space to move, I thought, when he took the outside break and got the fend, and then the timing and accuracy of his inside offload to Johnny for the try, it was top notch. So, he's a youngster who we try to have involved. We're just not sure where sometimes, and sometimes he is a little bit maverick, and he wanders around because he's not quite sure which position he's playing at any one time. But part of that's probably our fault because we keep swapping him around. But we swap him around because he's so versatile, and because his skill set and his enthusiasm allow him to survive wherever we put him. And I thought he was really good tonight.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone.